Chapter 25 of Pee Wee Harris on the Trail. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Recording by John Brandon. Pee Wee Harris on the Trail by Percy Keese Fitzhugh. Chapter 25. Bedlam. That Pee Wee Harris, the only original Boy Scout, positively guaranteed, should be pronounced not a scout? Why, that was like saying that water was not wet, or to use a more fitting comparison, that mince pie was not good. To say that Pee Wee Harris was in the Scouts would not be saying enough. Rather should it be said that the Scouts were all in Pee Wee Harris. The Scout movement had not swallowed him. He had swallowed it, the same as he swallowed everything else. He had swallowed it whole. He was the Boy Scout just as much as Uncle Sam is the United States, except that he was much greater and more terrible than Uncle Sam. Oh, much. He was just as much a Boy Scout as the 4th of July is a noise, except that he was more of a noise. And here was a shabby, eager-faced boy with pantaloons like stovepipes almost reaching his ankles, and a ticking shirt with a pattern like a checkerboard, a quaint, queer youngster living a million miles from nowhere, telling him that he was no scout, that he was a thief. "Hey, mister," Pee Wee shouted to Ham Sanders, who drove up. "I'm rescuing this automobile from 2 men that stole it, and I got another one to help me, and he was trying to steal it, and it belongs to a man I know where I live. And I was at the movies with him, and that feller said he'd take it back, and this feller says I'm a thief, and I'm good and hungry." Ham Sanders gave one look at him and said, "Oh, is that so?" "It's more than so," Pee Wee shouted, "and I'm going to stick to this automobile. I don't care what. If you say I'm not a scout, I can prove it." "You needn't go far to prove it," said Ham. "We can see you're not. Maybe you're pretty wide awake." "I'm not. I'm sleepy," Pee Wee shouted. "Have you got anything to say around here?" "Well, I think I have. I'm constable," said Ham. "Then why aren't you sure?" Pee Wee retorted. "Just because I don't know where I am, it doesn't say I don't know what I'm talking about, does it? Will you help me drive this automobile back? You'll get some money if you do. I had an adventure with a couple of thieves, and I foiled them. They've got 70 pistols. I was watching the Bandit of Harrowing Highway." "You got into bad company, youngster," said Ham, surveying Pee Wee's rakish cap and lawless-looking sweater. "You ought to be thankful you got a chance to get rid of that sort of company. You're kind of young, I reckon, aren't you?" "Gosh, I calculate you ain't more'n 4 feet high." "Kinder young to be mixed up in stealin's." "You're the one that's mixed up," Pee Wee shouted. "And anyway, size doesn't count. You can steal things if you're only a foot high, if you want to, and—" "How about all this, Peter?" asked his friend confidently. "I'll tell you," Pee Wee shouted. "I had a lot of adventures. I know 2 men that have. Shh! They have dead ones to their credit. I what do you call it, vented them, and that man that just ran away, he was a traitor, but I can you keep still a second?" "One look at you is enough," said Ham Sanders. I've got 3 scout suits," Pee Wee began. Like enough you stole 'em, said Ham. You're one of them runners for crooks. That's what you are. I know the kind. They have you to climb in the windows for 'em and all that. Now you keep still a minute if you know what's best for you." In a brief and threatened few seconds of silence, Peter told in a whisper how he had seen the signal and read it and stopped the car, and of the flight of the head thief, as he called him. Between these two excited youngsters, Ham hardly knew what to believe. He certainly did not believe in talking lights appearing over graveyards, nor did he credit Pee-wee's vehement and choppy account of bandits with 70 pistols. "Whar are these dead ones?" he asked, rather confused. "Over yonder in the graveyard?" "How do I know where they are?" Pee-wee shouted. "Do you know what blackjacks are?" "Dots and dashes. You can do it with lights, too," said Peter. "They tell the truth. If he says signals lie, that shows he isn't a scout anyway, and anybody can see he isn't. I stopped them. I did it by myself." "That's nothing," Pee-wee shouted from the seat. "I nearly got suffocated. I'm more of a hero than you are. That man that ran away, he duped me. This car, will you listen? This car. It's stolen, I know," said Peter. "It was stolen, but it isn't stolen," Pee-wee fairly screamed. "Can't a thing be stolen and then not stolen? It's being rescued." "It's being stolen. The other thief ran away," Peter insisted. He admits he was friends with a thief. He's a thief, too, he is. Maybe Jim disguised, kind of, as a thief," Pee-wee conceded. "He's trying to be disguised as a scout," poor Peter said. "I was a scout before you or anybody else was born," Pee-wee shouted. "He isn't," said Peter. "I am," said Pee-wee. Ham Sanders scratched his head, looking from one to the other, then looked appealingly at his familiar milk cans. Perhaps he expected to see them dancing around in this bedlam. "I'm going to have both of you youngsters before the peace justice," he finally said. "We'll soon find out what's wrong here. Climb down out of that car, you, and come along with me, the both of you." "Do you think I'm scared of him?" Pee-wee demanded as he climbed down. "You will be scared of him. He's got a big book," said Peter. "I ain't scared of big books," Pee-wee announced. "I know bigger books. Camp registers. I bet it isn't as big as a map book." "You'll see," said Peter darkly. End of chapter 25. Recording by John Brandon.